Y'all wanna let me know when we're live?
Oh,
Oh shoot! Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Actually, I've got
yes.
my iPad. I can check it.
I had it pulled up already, so
We do appear to be live.
let's go.
Oh yeah,
Let-
we are
let me-
very live. I can't wait for when we're high enough.
What does very live even mean?
Who said? Did I say very live?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not just a little live. We're very live.
Okay, and we got good audio. You know.
Facts. You listen to it just to double check.
Yeah. Just double check.
You
Not
make sure
that we
everything's
could-
plugged in, Jack.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All my cords are ran.
Excellent. You're plugged
Ready
in,
to
right?
cook.
So your laptop's not gonna die.
Yeah. I am plugged in.
You got
That'd
your
be so
Spurs
brutal.
jersey? That would be dog.
I do.
You just throw your headset off and scurry away. You got your Spurs jersey hung up in the background?
Shout out to Aaron Fox, man. I can't wait to watch him healthy in a Spurs jersey.
Did we got to see him in Memphis, right?
Yeah, but his hand was hurt.
He hit
He
the
had to
game
win
winner,
surgery
right?
like a week later. He did hit a game winner, yeah.
Yeah. That was fire. Well, currently the only person in the live stream I believe is me, so we can give it a few minutes. I say we start officially at 10:30. We get the ball.
10:30 is
rolling.
fine with me.
But yeah, this is my third root beer, something like that. So I've been downing them.
You're drunk. That's crazy.
And then I'm at my dad's office. I should have plugged into his setup. He's got all right. Since no one else is in the live stream,
Can you play the intro on the trombone? Do you think?
this is my dad's monitor setup. He's got a vertical, a horizontal, and then a computer and another monitor. So no, I'm not gonna try and play the intro on the. That'd be challenging, to say the least.
I'm trying to think. I don't even remember. I don't know what it was. I'm trying to remember what our intro sounds like, and I can't even think of that.
I low key can't think of it either. JP, will you do us the honors? We are actually we're at 10:30. JP, take it away.
Yeah. I'll try. Bum 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 bum. I think I missed a beat there, but
What is up, guys? Welcome to the Technical Fowl podcast. I'm one of your co-host, Jack Anderson. Here, as always, with Sanders Oakley and JP. How are y'all doing?
I'm doing great. We got Jack right there, and then JP right there. So I guess
not how it is on my screen, but
well, for
Also
the
not
live
just on
stream,
the
that's
screen.
how it is. So
For the viewers, is how it will look for sure.
correct.
Yeah. New setup. Our
Temporary.
production guy decided to leave town, so being the only one in town, I couldn't really do all of it myself. So Discord
second
is the
strike?
next best option. That may be a second strike for production guy.
What was so? All right. So
This
production
is just
guys got
this
two,
is his vacation time. So
Sure,
this
sure.
is fine.
and I'm still working.
Um,
I'm not even on vacation. I'm still working. That's crazy.
Sure. You're taking half days.
Half days.
You know,
Okay.
Um,
With paid time off, right? It's PTO or is
yeah,
this
it's PTO
unpaid?
for sure. You
Okay,
don't have
bet.
very many. We're new, so you only have 4 PTO days stored up, but you went ahead and ripped them early.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I'm using them all. Well,
I mean,
technically,
they're there for you to use. So.
today is the only day that I need to take it, right? Because the other days, there's no different than me being in
This
the
is
office.
true. This is true. Yeah.
Because this is the only day you need me.
But yeah, definitely not the ideal setup. But we're sticking to our podcast schedule. We're going to rip off a podcast here. On the docket, it's our weekly segments as always, Cock of the Walk, yada yada yada, and then NBA playoffs. And we had one fantastic game one of the conference finals, and then one just all right one. But we'll get into those in just a minute. Actually, I think we'll get into them right now. No, that's not true. I have some news from Andrew McBride, our Dallas Stars correspondent. Big Game 1 win for the Stars. I believe they're also in their conference finals. Is this true?
correct.
They win 6-3 against the Oilers. Let me find out his text. That's the wrong group chat.
That's the real breaking news from this week.
That is. You can talk about that real quick if you want. Our group chat has undergone crazy things. Here we go.
Go for it. And then
Tyler
we'll do
Seguin and Ottinger best players, and then also special shout out to Elaine Nasruddin, the Stars special teams coach, who our correspondent Andrew Bride says won them the game. I'm also supposed to say that PK Subban is a clown. He's basically the big perk of NHL media. It seems to be the comparison. But that's our Dallas Stars news for the night. Huge win for the Stars.
Yeah.
Love to see it. Sanders, take it away.
Yeah, our group chat is struggling. There's like a group of like all of us that are in a fantasy league together, and one of them went abroad. He is in Oxford right now.
Aye.
Which, you know, he did the whole change to an international carrier, which messed up the whole iMessage thing. Now there are 4 group chats for some people. I still only have 1. Every time I text, one of our friends gets kicked, and then we re-add him, and if I text again, he gets kicked. It's great. It's been a weird 2 days. iPhone
That's my
is
favorite new feature.
your
You have
favorite
complete
new
control
feature.
over Jackson Carter.
Yeah, literally. Actually, I think we got that part fixed. But then Duncan sent something, and it kicked Jackson again. It's whenever somebody new says something, Jackson gets kicked. But
Who knows?
yeah, that's that breaking news. It's affecting many people. Thousands are on the edge of their seat.
All 13 of us.
Yeah, 13 remainers. 14 if you count Mont when he gets back.
True. We want to get rolling?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's roll into NBA
Pull the
stuff.
first. Yep, NBA stuff first.
Yes. What do y'all? Let's do the boring. Do you want to start? Let's start with the fun game because it's fresh. It just happened.
Okay, that's fine. I was going to start with the other one, but you got graphic control, so
I would vote on the fun one, so 2-1.
fair enough.
Yeah. So y'all get it started while I add the graphics so that it looks better.
Pacers Knicks is what we are referring to when we say the fun one. Back and forth, fast-paced game. JP equated it to an LA Fitness hoop run of the good kind. You know, you got crazy plays all around, but also stupid plays, missed dunks, all of it. Just all of it out and about. Looked like the Knicks were going to pull away. We're up 14 with like 3 minutes left. And then Aaron Nesmith decided to go on an absolute heater, hit 5 threes down the stretch. Knicks missed some free throws. And then Tyrese Halliburton, the clutch man that he is, comes through and hits a deep 2, hits off the back iron and pops up and falls straight in as time expires. And we're off to overtime. And from there, the Pacers get it done, so they're up 1-0 in this series out of nowhere. The stat came out. That was the first loss in the conference finals, or just in the playoffs in general. Let me find. Teams up 14 plus in the final 250 of a playoff fourth quarter or overtime are 977-1. The Knicks are the first team to lose, up 14 with 250 left. So a collapse for sure from the Knicks, but honestly, the Pacers also just got really hot. Nesmith just an absolute heater, like I said. So a bit of both. The Pacers took this game, and the Knicks gave it away. JP, what are your thoughts on this game?
I thought the Pacers took the game. I didn't feel like the Knicks.
I think it's just you're up 14 with 250 left. No matter how well the other team plays, you really should be able to close the game. It's in your control.
I don't feel that way off the instant reaction. I felt like I mean, the Pacers literally had to do. Well, I mean, which it makes sense, but the Pacers literally had to do everything perfectly.
And they still probably couldn't have won because OG misses free throws. You get missed free throws down the stretch. It looked like they were going to do all that and still not have a chance to win it, I guess is my point.
I just felt like it was just an onslaught. I wouldn't equate it to luck, but it almost kind of plays out that way where you get Nesmith. He in the fourth quarter goes 6 for 7 from 3, including 5 in a row, and to get down to that spot, like it doesn't really matter what the Knicks are doing because the Knicks with the lead are just playing to waste the clock.
Sure.
Get to the foul line, get easy baskets, and they were doing that. But ultimately, 3 is always going to be better than 2 or better than 1 if they were to miss a free throw. And that was ultimately what happened. Like, the Pacers just continued to make shots, and I didn't feel, in my opinion, it just didn't feel like it was the Knicks choked this one away. Yeah, like OG misses a free throw. And then if he makes the other, they end up winning this game. Actually, Tyrese Halliburton doesn't even tie the game. They win by 1. I didn't feel that way. It felt like the Knicks were fully in control, and then the Pacers just went on an avalanche, and I didn't feel like the avalanche was because of the Knicks' faults. Like, Nesmith hit some insane threes, some deep threes, and some absolutely clutch threes, and that was just kind of how the cookie crumbled. I do feel like the way they played the overtime was the collapse. I didn't feel like the fourth quarter, even though that stat is crazy as it is, I didn't feel like that was the collapse. I thought the overtime was the collapse.
Overtime was definitely worse. I'll give you that.
Yeah, the first two possessions are shots with Josh Hart to start overtime. That's not how you want to set the tone going into overtime. And then I've talked about this multiple times throughout the postseason. I felt like Tom Thibodeau just put his team in an awful spot in the final two possessions of the game for the Knicks. The first one, he runs a big set play, which I have called for at times, but it was a set play where the passes are literally from the four corners. The first inbound is the Cat. He goes to a dribble handoff. They swing it across to OG, and then OG has to swing it to the corner. And it was very predictable because it's being ran to Jalen Brunson, and all the eyes are there because this guy's just on a heater. And it was very predictable, and you put him in an awful spot. Nembhard tips it. It goes off Jalen, and it's out of bounds. That would have been the spot for me where you know that, like, you're gonna get another possession more than likely. Take a different approach for that possession. Go a different way, because the meal that the Knicks had been serving the Pacers for literally the last 16 minutes of the game. Well, not 16 minutes. Jalen didn't hop it into the 5. The last 10 minutes of the game was essentially Jalen Brunson one-on-one, and it was working every single time. But eventually, law of averages says it's not going to work at some point. So for me, that was the spot where you go to something else. You go to Mikal Bridges. You go to Cat in the post, who had been dominant in the post all game. And
this was the best game of the playoffs, would you say?
Yes, by far, easily.
I couldn't remember all the Detroit ones in my head, so that's kind of why I was hesitant. But
I would say a game, it was either 3 or 4 where he hits the 2 big threes was pretty good. But I thought he played his best game of the playoffs in this game today, scoring 35 and 12. That would have been the spot where I go to someone else. And then on the final possession, I would come back to Jalen Brunson. And they do that on the final possession. But they put him in the worst spot possible. They put him on the left side of the wing, not a place he loves to attack from unless he's down on the post. And then Brunson, for whatever reason, literally takes like the lowest percentage shot possible for him, which is a step back to his left, where he has to basically turn his shoulders fully to ever get that ball online and get it going towards the rim. If you're going to put him on the left side because you've been attacking on the right side so much the entire game, give him a screen. Let him go off to the right in some kind of action. Kind of like the shot he hit in the Pistons series, where he hits one going to his right and he just steps in and knocks it down from 3. Why are you putting him in an ISO situation on a side of the floor where he's not comfortable? It didn't make any sense to me. And for me, that was the collapse, not the fourth quarter. I didn't think the fourth and those last 5 minutes were the collapse. I felt like overtime was just played awfully by New York. First 2 shots being Josh Hart, and then the last 2 possessions just were not good from an offensive perspective.
Yeah, I think calling the fourth quarter calling it a collapse is disingenuous. I can agree overtime was worse. To me, it just looked like the Knicks ran out of gas in overtime, honestly. That fast pace that the Pacers love to play at got to them. There were multiple times Cat was slow getting up the court, or even after he'd make a play or grab a rebound, there's kind of a second of like just really struggling to catch his breath. Brunson had 2 pretty uncharacteristic turnovers in the fourth quarter where the pressure just kind of seemed to get to him. He wasn't exactly himself. So the Pacers, I think, they looked way more fresh. That deep rotation, which I think honestly was handled poorly by Rick Carlisle, bringing in Ben Shepherd when he did to play the last 7 minutes of the game. And I know Nembhard was in foul trouble, so you're trying to find minutes somewhere, but he hadn't played all game. And then Thomas Bryant's playing a lot of closing minutes as well. In a game that you were down in, but it was still in reach, to not play your starters for that long made no sense to me. Now it worked because Neesmith decided to go God mode. I mean, that's an all-time heater. That playoff stretch from him is going to be remembered for a long time, especially if the Pacers win this series. But all the deep rotations and the less minutes on the Pacers turned out to help them. Let me see if I can find some minutes discrepancies here. I mean, Nimhard played 35. Miles Turner's played 31. Siakam and Halliburton were the only Pacers over 40. Cat played high 30s. Brunson was high 30s. Bridges was 46. Hart was 44. Anunoby was 42. So I do think the shortened bench that they have with only really the 7 guys hurt the Knicks down the stretch.
Sure. It's going to be a story all series long. And this is, I mean, a lot of people, their analysis of the series was the pace discrepancy. The Knicks being, over the last 2 years, the slowest paced team in the NBA. And the Pacers, over the last 3 seasons, being the fastest paced team in the NBA. But I'm saying that because people were saying, like, whoever controls the pace and plays it their style is going to play to more victories. I don't see it that way. That's not how last season's playoff series played. All 7 games were high scoring. There was really only one game that really was kind of for low scoring. And the Knicks are capable of playing at this pace.
They showed it today. I mean,
with the Pacers. Now, it'll be a question if they're able to do it throughout the rest of the series, because it was shown last season when they kept playing at this pace, they started dwindling as Brunson gets hurt and OG gets hurt. We'll see if that's something that they can continue to do. But I don't feel like that analysis is right, because I showed tonight the Knicks were completely in control. One thing about Neesmith, he had not scored since 5 minutes left in the second quarter, and then scores 20 in the fourth, most of those in the last 5 minutes. That kind of goes into like this is just kind of good luck, bad luck, depending on which side you're looking at it from.
Sure.
For a guy to not score, for having 10 points going into the third and then dropping 20 in those last 5 minutes, it's I agree. It's something that's going to be watched and remembered forever, regardless of how the Pacers close out this series, whether it's in a win or a loss. It truly one of the more remarkable stretches we've seen, and it's up there with a lot of the remarkable stretches we saw with Reggie Miller back when he used to play, and now I guess there's an argument whether or not Neesmith and his little stretch here was more impactful than Reggie Miller's 8 points in 40 or 24 seconds or whatever the number was. In the Garden too, nonetheless, with Reggie in the building. Just
the crowd.
For me, a basketball fan, so many like little cool tidbits right there.
I mean, Tyrese could not wait to do the choke celebration. He had that thing locked and loaded. And I'm really glad for his sake they won the game, because that would have been tough to pull that out, and then the Knicks end up winning it. Just talking about the heater, it was about 2.5 minutes left, and I thought the game was wrapping up. I was like starting to kind of, look at numbers and stuff, and the Pacers were shooting 25% from 3, and I was like, that's a low number. It's not at all what you want for an NBA team. Well, they shot 40.5% from 3 across the game because of their heater down the stretch, and it really was all Neesmith. You had the big 3 from Nimhard in the corner in overtime as well. But yeah, it was just such a fun game. I hope we get a 7-game series here. It'll be an absolute blast.
Talking about the rest of the series, it's going to be, I think a lot of people, I don't know, the way I see it, a lot of people are going to overreact tomorrow. And as much as I guess it would seem to be a big momentum grabber and be like the defining moment in the series, I don't see it that way. I think this New York team is just better than that, better than just to fall apart after losing a game like this, because for one, I don't think the run that occurred was something that they didn't expect to see. They know the Pacers are capable of making runs like that, even runs as substantial as that was. And two, like this Knicks team has been excellent on the road the last 2 seasons in the playoffs. So you can't just go out and say, oh, it's over because the Pacers control home court the rest of the way.
Sure. Another thing I want to point to, just talking about the series down the line, the Knicks' offensive rebounding, especially Mitchell Robinson, gave them huge minutes. Just talking about adjustments, that's something the Pacers are really going to have to look to get under wraps because he was just a menace on the board. Same with Josh Hart. And I don't know, honestly. Some of the things that I mean, you can gang rebound on it, obviously, but just no one could match up with Mitchell Robinson to box him out. Miles Turner couldn't do it. Thomas Bryant is more an offensive guy anyway. He's not going to do it. I mean, they were just getting bullied down low by Mitchell Robinson. I thought, talking about, the Pacers being the deeper team and the Knicks only really having 7 guys, I thought you got a really good bench game from the Knicks holistically. I thought you got big Deuce McBride minutes. He had a couple threes. Mitchell Robinson was fantastic. You couldn't really ask for much more from those guys. Maybe your biggest ask is just don't play campaign. But
I think he hits 2 threes tonight, so
True.
He was effective. 5 in the plus minus. You kind of have to play him, in my opinion, with the pressure that the Pacers put on. I think it's too much to ask of Miles McBride, Jalen Brunson, and Mikal Bridges, and even Josh Hart to continually break the press for 48 minutes. So I think the campaign minutes are just imperative for the Knicks going forward in the series. I don't think it's something they can go without. Now, unfortunately, like when you get they got a good campaign game, and campaign historically is a guy who has one good game in the entire series, and then the rest of the series, he's kind of a letdown for you. So it's unfortunate to not take advantage of this, but they have no choice but to play him going forward in this series, especially if the Pacers are going to continue to find success in isolating Jalen Brunson and getting him in foul trouble, which was a massive story in this game.
I think it's a massive story this whole series, not just with him, but even guys like Cat and then the guards for the Pacers that have to guard Brunson.
Agreed. And arguably there were tons of moments, more fouls could have been called, especially on the Knicks tonight. There were a lot of calls that were kind of missed. But that's something we've kind of grown accustomed to for playoff basketball. But yeah,
you prefer it that way?
I agree. I would prefer it that way as well. It'll be interesting to see going forward how that kind of plays out because, Jalen Brunson picks up his 5th foul, but the Knicks go on that 12-0 run. That's not something that's going to continue to happen for New York. For New York's case, I think it's got to be you have to play better defensively. I thought the Pacers just got way too many easy ones. Siakam is a guy he's going to score when he gets in those ISO spots, but to give up 10 to TJ McConnell, to let Obi Toppin go for 8 and 10, when this is a guy who's played with you a ton, so you should know his tendencies. You have to be able to box him out better. Neesmith isn't going to score 30 a game, obviously, but you can't give up these easy ones to these other guys because when you do, that then makes them a threat on the offensive end, and it forces you to be in a spot where you have to pay more attention to them defensively, and then that is what gets the better players more open. That's what gets Siakam in the one-on-ones. That's what allows Tyrese Halliburton to switch on to a big and be able to attack. It's something they're going to have to limit going forward in this series, and it's that's one of the adjustments I think you have to make if you're New York. I wouldn't. They're not going to write it up as we got unlucky. They're going to write it up as we gave this one away. Sure. But they're going to have to be more productive at slowing down those extra players for the Pacers.
Yeah, it's just they definitely fell asleep a couple times throughout that game and gave up easy ones.
What was that last play? Like on defense, the one that put the Pacers up 3, I think, where they inbounded it like at midcourt, and the announcer just kept talking about how there was no defense. Was that like What was missed there? Was that just bad defense?
They just essentially let Obi Toppin be alone.
Yeah.
My guess is
Whoever,
they didn't expect him to try and score because of the
yeah,
time situation in the game.
Yeah.
They
I
expect him
think
to
they
just
dribble it
wait
out.
for the
Yeah,
foul. Yeah, still not great. Cat also wasn't very good defensively, I don't think, which isn't a huge surprise. But he just looked a
I,
little lost out there and dropped coverage sometimes.
yeah.
Um,
I don't know if I would put him too much at fault because
it's a
I
tough
think
ask, sure.
that's for one, yeah, tough ask, but that is what he's being asked to do from a coaching perspective is to play in that drop coverage. That is the adjustment made by the Knicks. That's what they wanted going into the series. So yeah, we see it a ton, and a lot of the time, I mean, drop coverage is just eaten alive. It's something I really question a lot as a defensive approach in the NBA, but we eat alive the big man when in reality it's the coaches that are asking for them to be in that drop coverage. These guys are we have to remember these guys are NBA players. They're not doing something for no reason most of the time.
I do think it's an adjust. I mean, because you're playing Miles Turner, so it's not like you're playing some big that can't shoot. So just sagging off. And I do think they kind of cleaned it up down the stretch because Miles Turner started off really hot and then didn't really do much throughout the game.
Yeah,
But
he
not a
scores
guy you
13
want to.
points in the first and 1 point or
Yeah,
14. Yeah, 11 in the first, 3 the rest of the way.
he's not a guy you want
Um,
to sag off on at all.
Yeah. No. Adjustment for the Knicks, which I expect them to take game 2. They have to slow down the other guys. They're going to have to force more turnovers. Pacers have 7 turnovers in this game in a game that is played 53 minutes. That is something that's going to be crucial for them because if the Pacers aren't turning the ball over, they're so good at getting guys decent open shots that you need to be able to limit those shots because for them it's almost plays out of a law of averages that eventually they're gonna start hitting a bunch of shots in a row. Even though like at one point they're 28% from 3 in the game, if you continue to give them the looks, they're gonna eventually knock them down.
They got good shooters. So yeah.
JP, I noticed. So you didn't make your claim about Cat for this series like you did the last series, but he did hit his 25 points and it did not work out. I thought that was kind of funny. I wish you had made that claim for this series just so we could
No.
Apparently,
bring
you
it.
need him to score under 25 to win
Yeah.
games.
I didn't feel like it was something that was gonna be necessarily imperative because realistically, I expected Jalen Brunson to be extremely productive,
Yeah.
He was a
overproductive.
40 piece for Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
I don't want to let that go by the wayside because they lost.
He did have the 7
Yeah.
turnovers. And
Yeah.
another good reason to feel it's not imperative is he didn't do it last series and they won it. So
Yeah, I felt like Brunson was gonna score, and I think he's gonna score the rest of the series 35 plus a night. So I didn't feel like Towns had to be the scoring threat that he had to be in the Celtics series because the Celtics match up better defensively against Jalen Brunson, and we saw that where the Knicks were able to exploit the Celtics was with OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. But in this series, like Towns is gonna score these kinds of points, but I don't think it's necessarily like necessary for them. I think they just have to be better defensively going forward. They're
It's a
not
good
they
matchup for him to score points, though.
yeah. That is where those people that were making the claim about the pace are a little correct is like the Knicks need to they can play at that pace, but realistically they can't win 4 games playing at that pace. They need to hold Indiana to under 110 probably twice in this series to get out of here and make the finals.
what were they at before overtime? 120 something?
125.
Okay. What did we cover? What the final run is? Final like the it was like they were down 20 with how much time left?
They were down 16,
Okay.
92-108 with 4:30 left.
Down 14 with 2:50 left.
Okay.
It's probably the best place to start that
And then Neesmith had his run.
number. He hit 5
I
threes
cannot
and
wait
the
to
team hit
see.
6
I can't wait to
threes.
see the YouTube videos up there. Not the same as Thompson's 40 point quarter, but like Neesmith scores 20 points in a quarter in game 1 of the finals, and then they'll add that to the hot
We
streaks
watched an
compilations of like
so we
every
watched an NBA heat check
yes, exactly, the
video
heat check videos
last week. So
Those are about to
does
get a little
remind
bit
me of that.
longer.
I don't really have anything else to add on this series or this game.
Mm-mm.
Do we all have anything you want to toss out there, or can we move on
Did
to
we all pick
OKC
Knicks? We all picked Knicks, right?
Timberwolves? We all picked Knicks to win the series. Yes.
We still feel good about that. I mean, we can't change it, but how do we feel about the Knicks right now?
I did
don't
not
thi-
feel great about the pick while picking the Knicks, and I still don't feel great at it. But like, I feel the same. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
I picked the Knicks in 7. I'm not going away from that. Like I said earlier, I don't think New York is in the bad spot that a lot of people are going to say they are in the next 2 days, because I mean, the way from an outsider's perspective, that was a massive like momentum switch in the series, like 1,000% a massive momentum switch in the series. The Pacers stole a game on the road. They take home court advantage. And every sound judgment of an NBA fan would say, oh, well, now the series is over because it feels like the Pacers just took all of the momentum and life out of the Knicks. I don't see it that way. I think New York's going to respond. And like I said, they're elite on the road. And while they did not win a single game on the road last season against the Pacers in that 7-game series, I don't see them collapsing the rest of the way. I think they win game 2, and I think they're in a great spot. Like, I think they would have taken a split and you go into Indiana game 3 1-1 any day of the week, especially with the way Indiana has been playing in the postseason so far.
Yeah, and they've still got 3 home games, so you hopefully win those 3, and you just take one in Indiana. So that does lead to a long series, but they still have a lot of games left to play.
Series,
a lot of opportunities.
Long series, what we want here.
It is true. I don't know if it's what either of these teams want with what might happen in the West Finals, but we can talk about that.
But again, I think that goes to the don't look too far ahead. Just win the series. Like,
yeah.
You can't make the finals without winning 4 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. You don't
100%.
care how long the series is.
100%.
Also, in the finals, there's 2 days in between games, so rest is a lot less of a factor in that kind of series. You're usually always rested.
Yeah. Did you watch OKC Minnesota, Sanders?
It was on at my house. We were doing other stuff. Me and my brother's been playing a lot of Battlefront, so.
I saw you were online earlier today, so I was gonna let you preview this game if you feel like you're up for it. If not, I can take it away.
Yeah, you take it away because I have to change the graphic because I didn't do it all beforehand.
Cool. I didn't even think of that. This game was close for a while. Minnesota, a little more than a while. Minnesota had the lead at one point in the third quarter. Mike Conley got a couple of baskets. It was a 4-point lead. And then the wheels kind of fell off. OKC's defense, just the relentless pressure got to Minnesota. They started getting bad looks, turning the ball over. The threes weren't falling. And from there, OKC just, knockout punch after knockout punch. And it ended up being a 16-point win, if I'm reading the score margin correctly. Can I?
No, 26.
Yeah, but
26.
It was definitely
more
more than
sense.
16.
Yeah, 26.
When I was talking, I was like, this game wasn't close. And then when I looked at, that's why I was like, 16 doesn't seem correct.
Nope.
But Minnesota just got overwhelmed by OKC. I said it in the chat during the game yesterday, but it was like, I just don't trust Minnesota to be able to play disciplined enough to withstand the pressure. And that's not really a knock on Minnesota, because I don't know if I trust any team to stay disciplined enough to withstand the pressure and all the different looks and all the different defenders OKC can throw at you. It's more of a celebrate defense, JP. Just how remarkable this OKC defense can be when it's on, and it's on all the time. It's a very consistent unit. But they swarmed. They got what they wanted. They were baiting Naz Reid into trying to back down smaller defenders, and then he would get pit-pocketed or whatever, just baited into whatever he wanted. Ant didn't have a good game. A little too passive, in my opinion, always just kicking out to the shooter. They put up 51 threes. It felt like the Boston Celtics. But yeah, a very commanding Game 1 win for OKC. It's kind of a statement in this series, in my opinion. What were your thoughts, JP?
Yeah, I got a lot. I'll go through a few of them and then try to pass it to you, and then you can come back to me
Sure.
for the rest. But
Yeah, let's do it.
yeah, that well said. That's my first note is Minnesota Celtics, and I said that also in the chat yesterday.
Yeah.
They attempted 51 threes. Now, they had attempted 47 threes at one point in the Lakers series, but so far in the postseason, through 10 games prior to this game, they had been averaging 51.6 points per game in the paint. They score only 20 in Game 1, and the Thunder score 54. That was a big story of the game, Thunder attacking the rim, and the Timberwolves just settling for threes. They shoot 51 threes. The Thunder attempt 30 less, shooting 21. Timberwolves had only been attempting 35.1 threes a game in the postseason so far, so there's 16 threes attempted over that mark. And Ant Randall said it in their post-game press conference, saying they packed the paint a ton, and that was kind of a big reason. Ant saying, like, it felt like every time I drive, there were 4 guys there in the paint. But for me, like, I would argue they settled way too much.
Agreed.
Just way too much. And I've said this before, and this isn't like necessarily like my opinion. This is kind of just a common knowledge thing of he is so much better when he is attacking downhill first and when he is attacking to dunk on someone versus attacking to settle for a layup. I believe I said it after Game 1 in the Warriors Timberwolves series. And yeah, he was settling in this game, shoots 8 threes, so 5 2-point field goal attempts, which is realistically like 3 or 4 layup attempts. That's unacceptable. Ant was also just bad, just straight up bad. Fourth quarter, it's a close game, and he attempts 1 field goal in the fourth quarter. That can't happen ever, ever, ever. That cannot happen as the best player on a team in the Western Conference Finals. You cannot attempt 1 shot in the fourth. And he had multiple spots he could have attempted shots. And in a game where, and I'll get into this. This will be my second point. I want to talk about it. In a game where you see on the other side, and you are complaining, and you're laughing at the score sheet in the post-game press conference about SGA getting to the foul line whenever he wanted, why aren't you doing the same thing? If that's the way the game is being called, get to the frickin' rim and get fouled. Like, quit settling for threes. Attack, attack, attack. It doesn't matter how good the Thunder defense is. You should feel like, and the Timberwolves should feel like, and their fan base probably feels like, we're just as elite defensively as them. And yet they're getting to the rim whenever they want, and we're not. That's unacceptable in my opinion. And it's something clearly, like he said, they're going to try to make the adjustment in Game 2. I hope they do. I really hope they do, because if they're going to want to have any chance in this series, they have to do that. Secondly, I'll go into the big talk on Twitter for the past 24 hours. And it's been a big conversation all season. And it was even mentioned by Doris Burke in a backhanded way, a clear representation of not really understanding what is actually happening. So at SGA, he attempted 669 free throws in the regular season this year. That's tied for 228th all time in a single season. Notable players who are above him that are in the top 100 all time, which includes 100 more attempts from the free throw line: Russell Westbrook, James Harden 6 times, Michael Jordan 3 times, Giannis twice, LeBron twice, KD twice. If we're going to throw all this hate at Shea, which I understand it, but he's playing the game, and he's playing it the way the refs are calling it, which you cannot blame him for that. Blame the frickin' refs. Quit blaming him. Why aren't we also, And why didn't we throw this hate at Michael Jordan or Giannis or LeBron or KD for this? We threw it at Harden a ton. But Harden was also playing the game. Like, that was something that NBA players could do and get away with, which was reaching the arms up into the other guy's arm and drawing those shooting fouls easily. We ripped Harden for that, and for good reason, and they changed the rule, but that's what the rule was. So, like, why can't you can't then tear Harden apart for playing the game the way it's supposed to be played? Also, the Thunder, if we're again, like we're saying, oh, the Thunder had the big whistle. The Thunder shot the 8th least free throws this season per game, and they allowed the 4th most free throw attempts per game this season, and that's with their elite defense. So you can't come out and say, oh, now the Thunder have this big whistle. That's not been the truth all season. Quit just reading what you hear on Twitter. Actually watch the games. Actually read the stats. And another thing, for this game specific, this is my last one, Jack, and I'll let you go.
Yeah, you're good.
The T-Wolves attempted 21 free throws on 32 two-point attempts last night. 21 on 32 attempts. OKC attempted 26 free throws on 61 two-point attempts. That's a huge discrepancy. That's double
the percentage.
That's double the production of free throw attempts for the T-Wolves compared to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So for me, I hate to see it, but unfortunately that's kind of the story of Twitter these days. Is there's just a lot of stuff that's just it's untrue, it's stupid, and it makes no sense. And that's like our fan base on Twitter, and then how the NBA fan base has acted in the past 24 hours.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'll come out and say it. I hate the free throw stuff with Shea, but I don't hate him for it, just kind of just like you said. Like, I don't really like watching it, because who likes watching someone shoot free throws? Not that he even shoots a ton, but it's just any player that does it. It makes it for a little less boring basketball. But he's driving, he's drawing contact, he's very good at it, getting bumped and selling it, and players do it all the time. And I completely agree that in a game where one team is refusing to drive and take contact because as soon as they see the paint's a little clogged, they're passing out. Yeah, of course they're not going to get any calls because they're not in a position to get any calls. So that part is really, really frustrating for sure. I also, just on the Ant stuff, I completely agree he needs to be way more aggressive. It's kind of weird too, because for someone that gets talked about as like a superstar and this elite player, he doesn't typically really get blamed or knocked for bad games. It's typically a pretty quiet affair. Whereas, like, if Shea had a game like this, he would have been eaten alive by the media.
I agree. Yeah.
Which Shea is the MVP. Like, I get there's levels to it, but still, I've heard almost nothing about Anthony Edwards' poor performance and kind of his lack of. He didn't really act like the star, which is so weird for Ant. Talking about them clogging the paint and not really having the driving lanes. I saw someone say it, and I don't remember who. It might have just been some burner on Twitter, but it was like, yeah, the paint is clogged, but like, you're supposed to be Anthony freaking Edwards. Like, you're this guy that is just next level. You can get to the rim like no other. You explode. Talking about, going for all these dunks. Like, why are you scared of a little, some bodies in the way?
Yeah, just
almost,
jump over the clogged paint. Just go
that's
over them.
It's a little flawed, but that's almost the mindset he does need to play with, and he does play with a lot of times. Is like, I'm that guy. I'm the best player on the court. And he didn't really seem to have that swagger in Game 1 to me.
Well, he said verbatim in the post-game press conference, yeah, Oklahoma City doesn't have a lot of tall guys. Well, then, for one,
what are you doing?
They have Chet Holmgren, but
yeah, it's
for two, if that's the case, then nobody can block you. And if nobody can block you, you just jump up in the air, and it's going to be a foul every single time. You literally could go John Morant mode and just jump up violently for no reason, and you're going to get to the foul line. And I agree with you. He deserves more flack. That was something I hated as well about the past 24 hours, is that all this hate was being thrown to SGA when in reality, if you gave all 11 points that SGA scored to the Timberwolves, the Thunder still win the damn game. But Anthony Edwards was not really torn apart realistically at all. I saw it only on one show today. First things first, Chris Broussard kind of ripped into him for 2 minutes. But for me, like, I viewed Ant and SGA on this same tier right now in terms of a superstar in the NBA. And they just aren't being treated the same. I agree there, Jack. The Ant is kind of getting the we talk so much about what we love, his character, his flash, the trash talking and everything, but we don't like point out the bad things enough about him, and it's frustrating.
It's almost like he's still in that young. Go ahead, Sanders.
I was about to say the exact same thing. It's like, does it feel, because he's still a little unpolished, that we're still treating him like this first or second year guy where it's like he's just not there yet? Like, just give him a couple, like, he's still developing. He still hasn't figured out how to use the abilities he has yet. Is that part of it, where Shea is like a polish, like he knows what he does and he does it consistently?
I do think it's part of it, but it shouldn't be, because at this point, Ant's in year 4.
Yeah.
Year 4, year 5. This is his second, deep playoff run. Like, he's not a young player anymore. I do think he still has some of that perception, and that's why he's getting off easy, but he shouldn't still have that perception.
And it could be because that's like the mentality. He plays like the young underdog, right? Like, that's kind of how he tries to like portray himself. I wonder if that gives him a little bit longer leash when it comes to critics to his game.
That and like, the Flash is just like, everyone loves the Flash, so people are gonna be more like, no one's gonna want to dog on a player they like as much as they're gonna dog on someone they don't like.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be the first to say I like Ant more than Shea, so it makes sense.
That's fair. I mean, I do too, and I love the Thunder, and I've loved Shea and his play the past 2 seasons. But
the way I think the audio got you there a little bit, it really sounded like you said you've made love to the Thunder.
That's funny. We can edit that out in post, or you can clip that.
We're clipping it for TikTok. Is what we're doing.
Awesome.
You've heard it here first, guys.
But no, it feels like, well, no, for me, yeah, he's young. I understand like giving him that leash a little bit, but for me, because of the success now, back-to-back years making the Western Conference Finals, that's the standard now, and you've shown that you can play elite basketball in the playoffs, that you're clutch, that you can hit the big shots. You are not scared to go at Kevin Durant and LeBron and Luka. You're viewed as this killer. That should continue to be the standard. And that's like with Patrick Mahomes. As soon as he was seen, like, first season, AFC Championship. Second season, he wins the Super Bowl. The third season, he's in the Super Bowl again. Like, that's quickly becomes the standard, and you have to live up to that. And Mahomes has continued to do it. Credit to him. But like, that's how the sports media and the sports fans work. As soon as we see you capable of doing it, like, it needs to be repeated over and over. It doesn't matter really how young you are and how short in your career you are.
Yep. I completely agree.
How old is Shea versus how old is
Ant? 26 and Ant is 23.
Oh, okay. So there is some age gap there.
Yeah, 3 years.
For sure. But it doesn't even need to be like a Shea to Ant comparison. It's just kind of in general as well. Another thing I want to say, talking about adjustments down the stretch for the Timberwolves, which we've already talked about, they need to be more aggressive. And this isn't really an adjustment per se, but throughout the playoffs, we've seen shooting slumps from Dante DiVincenzo, who's notoriously a good shooter, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who typically is at least a solid shooter. In game 1 of this series, Dante was 3 of 12 from 3, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker was 2 of 9. Then combine it with kind of another super sub that they love. Naz Reid was 0 of 7 from 3. They need those guys to be pressure valves to kind of take some pressure off Julius Randle and Ant, and they were not at all that in this game. So talking about ways to try and win games, if your key role players are shooting the ball that badly, when that's kind of what they're out there to do in a lot of ways, you're just in for a tough time. And then combine that with the fact that Jaden McDaniels, who started the game off hot, gets in foul trouble. They just didn't really have much else to look to go to outside the big guys.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because, like, I mean, think of DiVincenzo and Alexander Walker in last season's playoffs. Like, they were like DiVincenzo was literally like it was like one B to Jalen Brunson throughout that postseason when it came to a scoring perspective. He was elite, and Nikhil Alexander Walker, sorry, was really productive in that Denver series, especially hitting big threes in his 3-and-D play. But for me, it feels like the Timberwolves. It almost feels like the adjustment here is just play again. It almost
Honestly,
for me, it's like I think you look at the entire team, and outside of Julius Randle, which you could say, 28. He had a good game. He shot the ball well, especially in the first half. Outside of that, you could say like every player played one of their worst games of the playoffs.
yeah.
And you would just bank on that not happening again. Like adjustment has to be made, like attack. Try to get to the foul line, especially if the refs are going to call it this way. Now it'll be a different crew in game 2, so it could be a completely different game. But you need to have that mindset because I think that's the best mindset for the Timberwolves. Attempt less threes, but I think play again, and just expect that like they're gonna start making threes. Although, like Alexander Walker and DiVincenzo have just been unproductive all postseason.
That's the really weird part is
more from Naz Reid.
I keep waiting for them to turn around, and they haven't. Naz Reid was pretty abysmal, honestly. Game 1, I think in my eyes, it felt like he felt the pressure the most. As someone that does like to put the ball on the floor a little bit, but then when he's guarded by guys like Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace and stuff, smaller guards, and he just doesn't really feel comfortable to do that at all. So then he tries to start backing him down, but that's not his game at all. And so then just all falls apart from there. In terms of adjustments, anything for OKC, JP, or do you think obviously there's some minor stuff they can do here and there, but do you think overall they feel very good about the Game 1 performance and where they're sitting at?
I think the way they played that was the right way. And while Minnesota missed a ton of threes, like being able to force them into these spots where you're almost baiting them into turnovers was really good. And I thought in a lot of spots they were like they can feel like, oh, we played a bad game. Although they shoot 50% from 3, like they had a lot of like little stupid turnovers. Like Caruso made some like a really bad ill-advised pass for a turnover. Hartenstein had 3 turnovers himself. Cason Wallace, a point guard and an effective ball handler, had 3 turnovers as well. So for them, it almost feels like you didn't even really play great. Like Shea scores 31, and outside of that, like Jalen Williams wasn't necessarily productive, as productive as he can be. Chet was bad for the entire first half, and then really turned it on in the second half. For them, it feels like continue to play that kind of style of basketball. I would force Minnesota to show you that they can make that adjustment, or show you that they can shoot like 50% from 3 in a night. Because if they're going to continue to have these shooting woes, which they've had for literally the entire postseason, why change it? Like, why give them the easy baskets? And then, like, I think they could almost think, like, I said this is kind of a thing coming into this series, like Julius Randle is going to struggle. And I still felt like, even with him scoring 28, like, he was not necessarily, like, destroying the Thunder.
Especially,
he hit 5 threes, and they're 5, like, catch and shoot, step in threes. And outside of that, like, he wasn't necessarily getting to his spots and getting to the post and getting the easy baskets very.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was going to say is, like, when the game started to get out of hand and the Timberwolves were looking for someone to get a bucket, he wasn't there either. So, like, down the stretch, they really clamped him down.
And also, like, the way they played that, again, going on, like, Thunder could feel like they played bad. That first quarter, they were abysmal, respectfully. There was Shea getting to the free throw line is really the only reason they kind of stayed in that game. And then they were able to make a little run at the end of the first quarter with some easy baskets for J-Dub. But, like, I think, like, they expect to respond again. The only other adjustment I would have is blue or white T-shirts again, please. Don't wear the navy or black T-shirts, and you probably are in a good spot to win game 2.
Has kind of started to become a theme with this team of starting slow and then finishing halves and quarters and the end of games really, really strong. Which probably better to have it in that order than the other one.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, it showed again, like, the Timberwolves, you could say, played a good first half. But, like, to beat OKC, you got to play 48 minutes of basketball because they're going to have at least one, and they're probably going to have 2 of these quarters where they score 30 and they really slow you down and force a lot of turnovers because they're that good defensively. And on the offensive end, they can get to their spots. And it for a lot of these guys, it feels like they have, like, just a go-to kind of shot. Like, Shea in his mid-range and getting to the foul line. Jalen is really productive at getting to the rim, and he did that again in today's game. Chet is, like, if you put anybody who's not 7 foot on him, he just, like, scores over them in the paint. Like, he was in the first half, he was bad going at Gobert, getting blocked and everything. Hartenstein with his little push shot is just it's money. So, like, for the Thunder, like,
Blue
you got
Dort high arcing 3.
Yeah, Dort with his I hate his high arcing 3, but
I know, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah. But, like, you're gonna have to play 48 minutes of good basketball to beat this Thunder team because they're not gonna hand it to you. It doesn't matter how slow they start. They are so good at just focusing on their defense and allowing that to turn into easy baskets offensively, and then that gets them going in the half court, and then it's too late. They can make a game look like it was going to be, this is a game that's going to come down to the wire, and then they just take control and blow you out for the final 14, 16 minutes.
Something for them, too, that's so nice offensively is, they will have stretches where they look pretty rough in the half court. Rough, maybe a little strong, but they're not clicking, not everything's smooth. But then they just pull a guy like Kendrick Williams off the bench, and he goes plus 19 in 10 minutes and gives you 8 points, hits some big shots, 2 threes. Like, they just have options everywhere. It's hard to keep them all down. So,
yep, the depth is helping them a ton because they're able to make the adjustments series to series and play guys in different spots and give them different minutes. Unlike, like, the Nuggets, like, were forced to play their 6-5 guys. The Knicks are going to be forced to play their 7 guys that entire Pacers series.
Yeah.
They really can't make adjustments from a min perspective. But the Thunder are able to go from playing Jalen Williams, J. Will, not the good one, the Arkansas charge baiting one. He was really productive in the Denver series in his 10 minutes in guarding Jokic, and they're able to switch it here to K. Will and Kendrick Williams because he's a better matchup defensively for Julius Randle, and he plays really productive. It's just another, again, unique advantage that the Thunder have. And for me, it feels great because it's like finally the world is, like, actually getting to see, like, how damn good this team is. Like, we forget they won 68 games, which is 5 off the NBA record. Like, they are just amazing, and I've felt this the entire season. That's the reason I picked them to win the championship, and they're showing it again here in the Western Conference Finals and the biggest games any of these guys have ever played in their life outside of Caruso and the bubble.
How are we
Shout out
feeling
Caruso,
about
man.
our? We all picked the Thunder. How are we all feeling about how many games are we going to see of this series?
5.
That was what I predicted coming into the series. I feel great about their prediction. I expect the Thunder to win tomorrow and take game 2.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to hand it to Minnesota. And then I expect them to struggle in Minnesota. They'll probably steal either game 3 or game 4. More than likely game 4 because Minnesota will play with so much desperation in game 3. But like that's kind of like their only downfall, which when they win 68 games, it really won't ever show up, is playing on the road. They weren't great in the Denver series and the Memphis series. Both of those games were clutch games down to the wire. So yeah, but I don't expect the OKC to let Minnesota get back in this series tomorrow night, and I expect them to win this in 5 again.
Anything you want to add, Sanders?
No.
Weekly segment time?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say it was confusing seeing the other Jalen Williams down there at the bottom of the roster. Caught me off guard.
J-Will. J-Will and J-Dub.
Yeah, let's move on to the weekly segments. You want to start us off with... There's news we can discuss.
Let's do your news first.
Let's talk about Josh Hubbard. He announced today that he will be returning to Mississippi State for his junior year. He's taking his name out of the NBA draft. This is huge news for Mississippi State. Very exciting. Some people are wondering if it is yet another example of the science where we can't have two good things happen in basketball and baseball on the same day. Baseball lost this morning, this afternoon. Yeah, okay, Jack. This afternoon, Hubbard announces his return. We can talk about that baseball game, or we can save it for the MSU recap. It was rough.
I mean, baseball lost. There'll be a 2 or 3 seed in a regional. We'll ride from there.
Pitched a freshman who, now we're talking about this instead of Josh Hubbard.
You just go then. We're here. Keep going.
All right. We started a freshman pitcher who's pitched well. Who's 4-0 on the season. He's done everything. He started. He's closed. He's pitched in relief. He starts the inning, strikes out 3 batters in the first inning, lets one guy get on base with a double, comes into the second and starts the inning with 2 errors and goes on to allow 6 runs, including a grand slam by the batter who had struck out 5 straight times. So he's like 0 for 16.
He was in a mega slump, and
he hit the grand slam.
He is a probable top 15, top 10 draft pick.
He's a fantastic player, but it was a very unfortunate time for him to get out of his slump.
Y'all deserve to lose that game. So, not actually, but like y'all started a freshman, we started our ace.
This is
like
true.
I don't really know what y'all expected in terms of that. Like you can't be too upset.
Yeah.
It's absolute desperation mode for us in the Maroon and College Station, and y'all just didn't care a ton, seemingly.
Which is understandable because from our position, we had to win, I believe, 5 straight games to win the SEC championship.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't going to be a whole lot of the only thing that would change is if we won that, there was a potential argument that we host. But winning 5 straight games as a 10 or 11 seed, I think, whatever we were, was unlikely.
11.
So it made sense to just kind of pitch the freshmen, rest the starters. If we win today, see what tomorrow brings.
I don't fault at all what y'all did. I'm just saying you can't get too upset when it's how that goes down.
Yeah, the only thing I'm frustrated about is the errors. But other than that, I like the approach we had to the game. I don't like the execution of that.
Well, because then if y'all win that game, it's like, oh man, we just stole a game and we threw a freshman.
Yeah,
like we
now
still
we
got
have
our
3 aces
big
left
arms
for 4 games. So.
Wouldn't we have played again tonight if we had won this morning?
No, we would have played tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
I think every game got moved back. So like the game, yes, if we don't get rained out last night, then we would have played tonight. But since every game got pushed a slot, tonight's game got moved to tomorrow morning, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so there will be 3 games tomorrow and 2 games on Friday, I believe.
Yes.
All right. Do you want to back to Josh Hubbard and how?
Yeah.
JP, I wanted to find the tweet. There was a tweet about our potential roster. I think it's exciting. You said you called this 2 weeks ago. Everyone's been saying it's going to happen.
He knew it 2 weeks ago.
He
didn't call it.
I mean, I did kind of feel it, and anyone reasonable would have felt like
as soon as he entered, no one really thought he was leaving.
Everyone was saying as soon as he entered, he will be back. I personally feel a lot better now that he has said he is back than just saying, oh, he's going to come back. He's going to come back.
Makes perfect sense.
I also felt like for him, and having had a good 15-minute conversation with his father too before an SEC tournament game. It doesn't never felt like transferring to somewhere where you could get a bag is ever going to be an option for him. I don't see it that way. Him being a Mississippi kid and a Mississippi family, quite frankly, where are you going to go where you are giving if the NBA is the goal, where are you going to go where you're going to give yourself a better chance to produce the way you need to make the NBA? Because for him at his size, he's going to have to be a guy who for 4 seasons scored 22 a game across those 4 seasons. He has to be super extremely productive offensively because he doesn't have he's not 6'3". He's my height, or an inch taller if you give him his fro. And he can jump out of the building, but he's also my height, so jumping out of the building isn't necessarily like Anthony Edwards or something like that. And he's not a great defender, although he plays with a ton of effort defensively, and has won us games with his defensive effort. He's going to have to be in a spot where he is the number one option. He's going to make March Madness and be seen on the national stage, which for this era with Chris Jans is the standard now. Similar to the way I said Patrick Mahomes, Anthony Edwards earlier, we've made the tournament 3 years in a row. That's the standard. That's the first thing that has to be accomplished for anything to really count towards the season. And you can argue whether or not winning a game matters or not. We could argue that for probably a whole week, which we did already. So, it feels like, and for me, it felt like he was always coming back, and this is the place where he's going to finish out his college career. Now, if he plays good enough this season, maybe he's in that spot where he makes it to the NBA. In my opinion, I'd play all 4 years.
I would too.
And try to gain that experience. Because for him, the route that he needs to go down is the route of Peyton Pritchard. He needs to just be an electric scorer in college, make March Madness, have some March Madness moments, which hopefully he can do that for us here at State in the next 2 years, and then find his role on the bench, be productive in some big time minutes, and then hopefully become kind of like a 6-man off the bench guy. Because he never, for me, as an NBA guy, he's never, in my opinion, going to be a starter because he's not big enough to be productive enough defensively in the NBA. So he's always going to be a guy that's going to come off the bench. But if he can come off the bench and score a bunch of points, that's something that's in NBA history has been really effective. That's what you're looking for in a 6-man, is a guy who's going to come off the bench and be the number one option off the bench and score a bunch of points. We've seen it time and time again. Lou Will, obviously Peyton Pritchard this season. Jamal Crawford was great at that. So I'm glad he's back. I'm excited to watch him for another season because it's so fun watching him play basketball because he is just the king of hitting unorthodox 3-point shots so many times over the past 2 years, he'll shoot a 3 and it's kind of like with Lou Dort, it's just that's a stupid shot. Why? That's not the shot. That's not the spot you're supposed to be shooting it from. But he's Josh Hubbard, so he makes it, and it doesn't matter. He shocked me time and time again. I can't wait to see it again for another season.
I'll be interested to see. Oh, you go first, Jack. I went first.
No, you go first. You got it.
I'll be interested to see what position, what the lineup ends up looking like, because he started his freshman year as a shooting guard, and then last year played point guard. I don't remember our portal class off the top of my head what do you expect him, like what skills are going to translate best to him, his size in the NBA? Like he's only going to be able to play point guard in the NBA, right? He's way too
Yeah.
small to be a shooting guard. He's going to have to be a point guard in the NBA, right?
If
He's
he
gonna
can't
be
handle
point
the
guard.
rock, he won't make it in the NBA at all.
Agreed. He's gonna be point guard again for us next season. With the transfers we brought in, like those are gonna be shooting guards like Claudio Harris.
Yeah.
That are to his side.
Is there
and
anyone
they're
else
giving relief?
going to be able to handle the ball besides him?
Delquan. We still have Delquan. He didn't transfer out,
Hoping
did he?
Delquan. Well, just hoping he improves, I guess, then. Because that was just an issue last year, is when
Yeah.
Hubbard went to the bench, it was like no one knew what to do with the basketball.
Yeah.
2 things I want to add, and then we can move on. John Rothstein tweeted, he said, Josh Hubbard plus Chris Jans equals 4th straight trip from Mississippi State to March Madness. So, talk about the expectation. It's been set. Not an unfair one by any means. And then another thing that is going to help Josh Hubbard for draft is we're seeing with all this NIL money is no one is going early to the draft anymore, really. So that just the number of names entering the draft is lower and lower. So in terms of his chances to get drafted when he does eventually go, the odds are actually higher than they would have been pre-NIL. So, is that all your news?
I mean, there's some other interesting stuff that happened around just sports today. Let me get rid of this. Did y'all see the NFL PA? There was some. I don't remember what the vote. There was.
Well, don't spoil one of my.
No. I'm not spoiling I'm not spoiling one of your segments. I want to talk about some of the other stuff. Did you see that the chain gang is now a thing of the past?
I think it's the chain gang. Measuring with chains.
Measuring with chains. We are going
Dang,
to
that's
a
sad.
Hawkeye camera system. So that's big, very big news. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. Apparently they were testing it last year. It's been tested thoroughly, which I don't know when.
Just nothing like the moment, though, when that chain gets stretched out.
Yep.
We'll never get that back.
I mean, JP, I'm sure you remember the game where Dak handed the referee a note card and slid it in there. Jack, do you remember that play? I mean, you're not a Dak fan.
That sounds familiar. I didn't know it was Dak.
Yeah, they pulled it out and it was close and the ref was looking at it and Dak, I don't know where he got it from, but he hands him like a flash card, and the ref like tucks it in and it puts it on the chain, runs it down the pole, and it hits the nose of the ball, and he's like, all right, it hit the ball, it's a first down. So
rigged note card, man.
Yeah, he got an extra thick note card to be sure.
Yeah.
But that's going to be really interesting. Another huge news. This is back to the state fans. Wes Johnson signed an extension with Georgia through 2031. So I think we can safely take him off of the hot board. I think that he will be staying in Georgia. Now it's kind of the list of names I've heard is getting shorter now. Mingione is off. The Oklahoma coach was on it for a while. He's off. So now it's O'Connor. Oregon's coach Wazanowski. I'm not sure.
Mike Wazowski, yeah.
Mike Wazowski at Oregon. I've started hearing his name more, so I guess the other guys have gotten knocked off. We may have to get an updated hot board or a list from Tucker in the next 2 weeks, depending on if we think we're close to getting a head coach.
When State's baseball season ends, we can bring him in.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a long time from now, but
yeah.
I mean, last time we got eliminated in the first round, we went all the way to the World Series, I think. So
y'all can thank us for the trophy then if y'all do that.
Well, we'll let you at least hold it since y'all haven't held one. But
yeah, thanks.
I'm not gonna talk any more smack. Y'all beat us today.
now you're in the SEC, so you got a chance this year.
True. I can't believe. No offense to A&M, but I can't believe y'all are getting discussion as an at-large. It's just
we're really not though.
Some people are giving you discussion. You're like the first 4 out.
Kendall Rogers, the guy I trust, he said the only way we have a case for an at-large is if we go all the way to Championship Sunday and lose. And he says even then he doesn't think we get in.
Well, we'll see.
So
now you can do. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, weekly segments. Let's do weekly segments. You gotta tell me which one's first because I can't see the.
Yeah. We're just gonna start cock of the walk. It should be same order.
Cock of the walk. Jalen Hurts gotta be the happiest man alive today as it got announced the tush push is not getting banned. So he, cock of his fantasy owners big win for them as well. Just huge
Yeah.
for his touchdown totals. I mean, he has to be very, very happy. Saquon's probably sad somewhere, not actually because he just won a Super Bowl.
Saquon fantasy owners, yeah. That was for me.
Fantasy owners are very sad for sure.
I had Saquon in the league that I won, so that was like Saquon was number one running back in fantasy last season, but it was frustrating because he could have been so. I went 8-6 in the regular season, and there were multiple weeks where I could have won if Saquon just scored another touchdown. But Jalen Hurts is still a top 3 fantasy quarterback.
Sure.
Going to this next season.
The trolling the Eagles have been doing has been pretty elite. Have you seen some of it?
I saw they posted a 26-minute compilation of tush pushes on their YouTube channel after it got announced it wasn't banned.
Yep, they did that. I saw someone say that the vote was 22-10, which was so the Packers initiated the rule change.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then someone was like, "Oh, the vote was 22-10. You know what else was 22-10?" And it was the Eagles Packers. Was it a playoff game?
Yeah, last season's playoff game.
So last season's playoff game was 22-10.
Ian Rappaport said that.
Yep, that was pretty funny. So the Eagles.
Yeah.
I saw someone. Okay, maybe it wasn't an Eagles, but the Eagles have been celebrating. All Eagles fans, understandably.
I mean, they should be. They're on top of the world right now, and
True.
then that news comes out, and it just adds fuel to the fire. But yeah.
Do y'all have opinions on the tush push real quick? Because I do. I'm just curious.
I mean, I'm fine with it. It annoys me when I'm, as a Washington Commanders fan, the Eagles get the ball to the 1-yard line and I know it's coming.
Yeah.
But I'm not it. I don't see any big reason for it to be banned or anything.
I'm fine with it, and since we added Kellen Moore as the head coach, and we drafted a damn offensive lineman with our first pick, I'm curious if we'll run it if Tyler Shuck is the starter this season.
But I heard he wasn't. He's QB2.
Spencer Rattler is not big enough to run it.
Do you think you bring Taysom Hill in for those plays and just let him do it?
When he's healthy. I mean, he tore his ACL last season.
Oh, okay.
So he's not guaranteed to play until midway through the season. Yeah. But I would actually kind of be surprised now that it's going to be legal this season if the Saints don't use it at some point throughout this season. And I hope we do. Because if we've drafted so many damn offensive linemen, we should be productive with it.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I don't necessarily have a problem with it. What I do have a problem with is I haven't read the NFL rule book, but I believe that there are rules in place about how the defense can line up that don't apply to the offense. So it basically lets the offense line up like a rugby scrum, whereas the defense can't line up in that same formation and match it. So that kind of bothers me because it's
another part of it is the defense can't push.
Right, exactly.
You can't push your defensive tackle in the back.
Exactly.
But the offense can.
That I don't have a problem with the tush push being allowed. Tush push is fine. But if you're going to allow it, you have to allow the defense to do the exact same thing back to stop it. That's what doesn't make sense to me.
That's fair.
The whole injury thing, I know that there's not enough evidence of that, so that's not a good argument. My only argument is let you can't. It'd be like telling defensive backs that they're not allowed to touch the ball, making rules that prevent defensive backs from playing defense on pass plays. Play defense with your eyes closed or something. You can't handicap the defense like that, in my opinion. They
have to stay in their backpedal the whole time.
Exactly. You're only allowed to backpedal.
The studies actually showed that, and most of it was basically done on concussions, that a tush push is actually the safest possible play in terms of concussions you could ever run.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to kind of think about. I think for the injury perspective, the only really one I can really think of is Chris Jones in the Super Bowl hurt his neck in the first quarter when they ran it for the touchdown, and he was hurt pretty much the rest of the game. I don't think he ever got reported for an actual injury or anything, but yeah. It's I think a big part of it is for one, they were 2 votes away from it being banned.
True.
So there's a good chance this is just banned next year. But like for the Eagles to really, and Eagles and essentially the Bills to be the only teams that were productive with this play, it doesn't make, I don't think it's fair coming from, like I agree with the Eagles fan perspective. I don't think it's fair to take that away because I think it's such a dangerous weapon. And I don't even think they've used it to the level that they could. Like they could like I mean let's say they complete a deep downfield pass and it's first and goal from the 7. You're going to tell me that they couldn't get 7 yards in 4 tries running it 4 times in a row? They could. They only need 2 yards of play. And some of these plays they're gaining 3 or 4. So like I don't even think we've seen the worst possible use of it. And I'm interested to see like if this season like the Eagles think, okay, this is the last year we got. Let's just use the hell out of it.
They may, yeah. That makes sense because like before they didn't want to abuse it because they didn't want to get it banned. They had to keep it like in this middle ground, but now it doesn't matter anyway.
My question is, do you think they could get away with doing it every play? I mean, could they have 4 times? You only have to average 2.5 yards a play.
Yeah.
They could do it all the way down the field. It's just
that would be insane.
We'd be seeing like 2-3 possession halves.
I personally would not watch an Eagles game.
It goes right in line with like, and because of like they can run the wrinkles of it too, where you pitch it or you throw a pass out of it. But like no, it just goes in line with, for me, it goes in line with my philosophy of run the damn ball.
Yeah.
So I don't have necessarily a big issue with it.
Yeah. I don't either. I just want the defense to be able to stop it. So I would love to see next year if another owner would propose that instead. Because I agree that like banning it is not necessarily fair, but would love to see somebody come up with a different angle on it next year.
Sure.
Jack, you want to keep moving?
Jalen Hurts, cock of the walk. Congrats, Brody. My winner and chicken dinner is Tottenham. Hopefully that's where you went next.
It is.
I figured you did. First trophy for Tottenham in 16 to 17 years. They win the Europa League over Man United, which is kind of funny for a lot of reasons. I'll try to keep it pretty simple because I know European football is not necessarily our listening base's biggest sport. But they beat Manchester United 4 times this year. They shut out Man United in this final, and the last team they shut out was Man United back in February. The Premier League is a 20-team league, and these teams are 15th and 16th in that league. So they're just really not having that great of seasons, but they ended up matching up in this cup final, which is basically it's a tournament of all the domestic club teams in Europe. And the winner gets to play in Champions League next year, which is, it's the Europa League. Yeah, I'm right. But anyway, the winner gets to play in the Champions League next year, which is like the step above, but they're not really good enough to play there. But they got it done, and like I said, they didn't win a trophy in 16 or 17 years. It's one of the biggest memes in the football world. It's like Tottenham doesn't win anything. So good for them. Good for some of their longtime players. I'm thinking of Son, especially, who's a great winger from South Korea. Finally gets a trophy. I don't really like Tottenham fans, but good for them, I guess.
I love Son. I watched him in the last World Cup.
He's a phenomenal player. I do love him. I don't love Tottenham, but he's an amazing player. There's a reason he's the name I said specifically is, well, one, he's been there a long time, but he's up there for one of my favorite players. But it also is great for me because as someone that likes to hate a little bit, they did finally win a trophy. But talking about their Champions League being the step above, they kind of won the second class trophy.
Yeah.
So you can still rag on them a little bit for that. But that's my winner in chicken dinner is Tottenham. And also they beat Man United, who's Man City's rival, so I can't hate that either. I believe they won on an own goal as well, 1-0. So
really
good stuff. Yeah.
That's tough.
And then you have Rod and Egg up there.
Yeah. Keep rolling.
I'm kind of loving this week because I don't know. I enjoy that I get to talk a little crap on Juan Soto, who is my Rod and Egg. Signed a mega deal with the Mets this offseason, leaving the Yankees. Yankees fans aren't too happy about that. He played there this past weekend, actually, which is why he's my Rod and Egg. He didn't have too good of a series, especially in the final game in a 2-2 game. He hit a ground ball up the middle, and and it was the second baseman got there, but it's pretty deep. But he throws out Juan Soto at first because Juan Soto does not hustle out of the box. We're getting some rumors, reports, nothing official, nothing super substantial, that like he doesn't like it in New York. He wish he stayed in the Yankees. Someone's like, the only time I saw him smile all weekend was when he was saying hi to Jazz Chisholm, who's a Yankees player. He's hitting 243 with an OPS of 803, which is above average, but for him is way down. Tonight, actually, in his first 2 at bats, he took five pitches. He took 7 pitches and didn't swing at any of them, and struck out looking twice or something like that.
I think he just set the record for. He took 15 straight pitches, I believe, is a tweet I saw, which is a new MLB record.
So just clearly out of sorts. Now he's a phenomenal player. He'll get it sorted out, I'm sure, and rake for them for years against the Braves as well, which doesn't make me happy. So I'm just going to, while he's down, take the time to revel in it because I know it's probably going to be short-lived. And once he settles in there, he'll get going. And he'll end up, and the Mets fans that are kind of discontent with him right now will fall back in love with him and all be well. But it's not necessarily been the best week for Juan Soto.
So maybe this is not a hot take. This is not a take. This is a question. Soto was great on the Nationals with won a World Series, right?
Yeah.
Was great on the Nationals. Went to the Padres and was not good. Went to the Yankees.
How long was he on the Padres for?
A year and a half.
Was it a year and a half?
Yeah.
year and a half.
Was he? Did you say he was not good
Trade
or just
deadline,
not great?
year.
What did you say, JP?
Trade deadline and then another year.
Yeah. So
that's what I thought.
He just never lived up to the expectations. I feel like he didn't have the same swagger. He came in and there was like, oh, the Soto shuffle, this, that, great player, young, can't wait to see what happens, and it just kind of he just kind of
crazy.
He's
26. That's just insane. But continue.
Went to the Yankees and then went to the World Series, was good, and then now he's at the Mets and is struggling again. Is it possible that he's not great? That he's just good and then plays great on good teams?
So I'd push back a little bit on that because in 2023 for the Padres, he had a 930 OPS.
Okay.
Which is pretty elite.
Okay.
And he had a 989 last year. He was not good with the Padres that first half after making the trade, which, they probably would have liked him to be better there because they were trying to make a push for something.
Yeah.
Pretty great. 2020 season is incredible. 1.185 OPS is insane. He led the league in so many categories that year.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for him is he's an elite hitter. He's a terrible fielder.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's grading out as like the worst left fielder in baseball right now. So my guess is some point sooner rather than later he's going to transition to being a DH. And so the contract he's on is a little steep for someone that may just end up being a DH for over half that contract.
Yeah.
That's kind of
it's because he has been, in my opinion, he's been just extremely productive.
Yes.
As a hitter, and with the hype, he's you also have to think about it from a business perspective too. He's going to put butts in the seats.
100%.
Mets games are always going to be packed. We're not going to go to Yankees games instead of Mets games because they have Judge. Well, we have Soto, and we have some talented guys in Lindor. But yeah, I thought he earned every part of that contract, and there was no way he wasn't going to get paid that contract. But yeah, because of his fielding issues, steep for a DH. But ultimately, for the Mets, because they had the money,
they don't care.
They don't care, and it wasn't necessarily they had a choice.
Yeah, I mean, since there's no true salary cap in the MLB, it just doesn't matter. I mean, and when Cohen, the owner of the Mets, I think he's valued at $14.2 billion. I mean, he said it in the early days of getting the Mets. He was like, I didn't buy this team to make money. This is basically for fun.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really care if maybe the contract is a little steep for a DH. He just got one of the best hitters in baseball.
Yeah.
And he also stole him from the Yankees, and that makes it all that much better.
True.
Yep, and like they were in the NLCS last
Yeah.
year, so
No, for
it's
sure.
not like they are coming off a bad year and then you add Soto and it's continued to go bad.
Yeah,
They
I do
were
want to
really good last year.
backpedal to your point about him being a little disappointing on the Padres, Sanders. I could see a world where he came across as disappointing. I feel like I even thought that at times, and I think that's just because of how great of a hitter he was, that he almost at times wasn't hitting at that insanely high level, which is like a little unfair to him, but it makes sense when it's like when someone's that good and they take a little bit of a step back for a stretch, it's like, man, they're not doing as good. You
Yeah.
know, like when Acuna wins the MVP and then he comes back and his OPS is in the high 800s, low 900s. It's like, man, this is like kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
You know,
And as a lifelong Padres fan for the last 3 years, I can kind of give you some. I think another part of it was he came in and we kind of went all in for that. We went to the division series, I believe, and lost. We played the Dodgers. I can't remember if we won or lost, but it's what I think we won. Or we beat them in the wild card maybe, and that's why I got the Tatis jersey. And so we had Tatis, we had Machado, we had Blake Snell, Musgrove as pitchers, and we brought in Soto to go on top of that. And so it's like, okay, like this team might actually have a chance. And then I feel like we underperformed relative to what we did in the postseason the year before. So I think that's another reason that there's kind of like he was supposed to be the capstone.
The missing piece. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
He was supposed to be the missing piece, and then we like played worse. It felt like. So I think that's another reason I kind of like, is Soto that good? Because I never saw it. But clearly he is. I mean, the stats do not lie, and now the Mets are sitting there a game and a half behind the Phillies in the East. So,
I mean, I would love if he just decided to crash and burn and never be good for the Mets, but the odds of that are just very low.
Yeah.
Do you have a question of the week or?
Oh, I actually do. Yeah. Let's keep.
Perfect. Let's end with this question of the week.
Last segment, question of the week. So the question of the week, shout out my mom for this. We were hanging out in the living room, and I said, what should the question of the week be? This is kind of fire. What record in any sport would you like to hold? So, like, if you could just have your name on the Jack Anderson most blank for any sport and any stat, what would it be?
Home run record.
Really? You didn't go soccer? You went straight baseball?
Yeah, soccer's hard because holding any record in soccer is like, there's just like old players and we don't really have great records of them almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, Ronaldo's the goal holder, but then it's like, okay, but then like what did Pele really do and all like that. I think
also
it's just
soccer like is played across. I feel like baseball is 150 years, 100 and something like that. Is that
around there?
How long is what is the soccer? How long is it considered to have been around? Like as a sport.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I feel like
think
it's changed.
The second part of that too is like soccer is just like a more flair-driven and artistic sport, and baseball is the most numbers-driven sport. Like that's what everyone cares about in baseball is the numbers. So to like, I think just records like that hold more esteem in baseball than they do in soccer in general. And so like being able to hold the home run record in the sport or that record in the sport where like it's just all statistics and numbers would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's fair. JP?
Are you saying home runs for a career?
Yeah, career home runs.
Gotcha.
Oh,
okay,
I
well,
took
then
that as season. That makes I think more sense.
Single season would be fire too, because like the chase of the single season, it's like he's on pace.
Yeah.
You know, he's on pace. Like, is he gonna catch Bonds or like
whoever you think holds
is he gonna
it?
catch? Yeah.
I would like to hold the record for the most major titles in golf.
I knew he's gonna go golf.
Yep.
Yeah. As much as I love basketball, there's not necessarily like for me a record that holds that kind of like height that Jack was talking about. Like the points record with Wilt. Well, we've seen film of literally like 20 million different events in that time period, but we don't have film of his 100-point game. And then you also think about like the players he was playing against as well. That doesn't really hold the same thing to me. Like for
the
me,
average
like
backcourt he played was me and JP. So
Yeah. For me it's like Kobe. It holds the record for most points in a game for me at 81, like a true record. Because we don't have it on film. And then other like rebounds aren't pretty, assists aren't pretty. Like no one. I mean, how many times a year do you hear the name John Stockton? Sanders 0, Jack.
I've heard
1?
it hundreds of times the past year, considering he gets referenced in "Not Like Us" by Kendrick Lamar.
Okay.
But outside of that,
he's in what's it? Jack Harlow.
What's poppin'?
What's poppin'? Yeah, he's in that song as well.
Crazy, he's just referenced in these hit songs like that. In the
So
basketball sphere, though, not that often.
It's more than once, but
Yeah,
that doesn't hold the illustrious position in my eyes. So major championships would be it for me, because it's really golf, since it's an individual sport. That kind of thing just shows utter dominance of the sport. And it really puts you on a pedestal, because these guys, like a lot of the top major champion winners, won it like a long time ago, but they're still held to this high regard because it was a different era of golf, but like they were the guys that were winning it. And golf still being like an individual sport, they like are playing the competition they're playing. And it's not like they were like they had the wilt size discrepancy or anything. So you still hear the names of like Gary Player and Tom Watson and Jack Nicklaus and everything. So major champions would be it, as long as I won a Masters, because I'd love to go to Augusta whenever I wanted. So
that's fair. What do you got, Sanders?
Well, I thought it was interesting. Y'all both went with individual records, which is where my mind went too. I didn't clarify. I guess it could have been like a team, like most Super Bowls.
I mean, I've thought about being like, most NBA championships, but it doesn't have the same oomph.
Yeah, honorable mention.
Yeah, because that's Bill Russell or Casey Jones.
Yeah. Honorable mention goes to most hot dogs eaten in 10 minutes. That'd be a fire record to hold.
Sure.
But I think the record, this is kind of a shout out to Steve Palazzolo and Check the Mic, because he talks all the time about, that's the only podcast I listen to, guys. At least that's what Jack thinks. I swear I listen to other stuff.
They put out enough content. You don't need to listen to anything else.
It's them and Josh Pate, and that is, I don't have more time for podcasts in a week, and I still am behind. I don't get to listen to everything. But they talk about how with the NFL expanding to 17 games, like, it screws up all the records, which I agree with. It makes me really sad. I kind of wish that they would they would add caveats of be like most like yards per game, or because I feel like that's a better representation of like some records. But I would love to hold the record for like most receiving yards in a season, just because Jerry Rice has it right now, I think, at just shy of 2,000. Or did Cup take that?
No, Cup did not break Jerry Rice.
Talk to the right guy.
Anyway, that's just a really cool record, I think, especially with. I would love to do it. I would love to have a pulled hamstring for 1 week, so I could do it in 16 games. And shut up the doubters. Silence the people who question it, because I don't want to break it in 17 games. That'd be sad.
I think it'd be so even more baller if you you could never actually do this in real life, but say you were like week 17 of 18 or week 18 of 19, because you have 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
And you like announce, and you're like 200 yards off the record, and you like announce like, I'm gonna sit out week 18, and you sit out week 18.
And just play the last week.
Play the last week and break it the last week, and be like,
crazy.
I'm sitting out week 18, so there is no asterisk.
Yeah.
When you're still 200 yards off.
That would be.
And then you just go crazy and do it.
I think, my mom just texted me. They're listening in the other room to the live stream. They're watching. She said Rice still holds it. She said 22,895. I was talking about season records, so I'm not sure if it was a typo or if she looked up the wrong record. Either way, I do think Rice still holds the season record. and it's around that 2,000 mark. I'm not positive. I don't think
Sure.
it's been broken. I don't think anyone broke 2,000.
Has not been broken. I can confirm.
Thanks, JP.
Shout out
Well-
JP doing on the spot research.
No,
Yeah,
I-
he's our
that's just
research
all
guy.
knowledge.
No,
I
didn't
think that's
mean-
it for the.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ketchup.
Go ahead. I think that's it for the show. I want to try and wrap it up pretty quickly because I know JP's got early work tomorrow, and I also have work tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hang around for too long.
First thing on my
but thanks
schedule is 1, so
Huge. Congrats. Thanks for tuning in, though, everyone. Hello, Oakleys from the living room. And as all, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all next time, next Sunday, for more NBA stuff, MSU updates, and probably more as well. Random ramblings